morning. First of all, I would like to thank the opportunity of being here. And I would like to start with a short prayer that I do anywhere I go. Okay, so it doesn't matter if I am here, like today, in a hospital, or if I am in a conference, or if I am in a temple. It doesn't matter where I go, or in a school. I always try to start with short prayer, because for me it's very important, the gratitude. And if there is anything that I can share with you, it's because someone has taught me. So I will just start with this prayer in which I remember my masters and the masters of my masters, which is thanks to them that I can have anything that I have learned up to today. Okay? So the first part of this prayer is in Tibetan, the second part of the prayer is in Sanskrit. Okay? Ocho sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarno da pegye trolo sampe tseprachen pande lame shabla sorva tere omo guru vajra dara sumati monisha sane karma Uta Varda Nishri Para Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Pakyuke Kudanda Gilu Pakyuke Sundanda Gima Pakyuke Tudanda Giyi Tenyerme Chikto Jingi Makyuke kudanda gilu, makyuke sundanda gima, makyuke tudanda giyi, tenyerme chikto jingi alo. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya As I was saying, I am happy to be here, honored to have this opportunity. And my intention today is not that of teaching anything. I'm not here with that intention, but it's mainly just to share with you some things that I had the opportunity in these years to learn, to experience myself. And they have been beneficial for me, so I think they can be also of benefit for others. So basically that's the idea. The idea is not to teach on Buddhism. The idea is not to bring anyone to Buddhism. The idea is just to share some things which I believe that they are beneficial. And we as human beings, we are very similar. So what can be of benefit for one can also be of benefit for others most of the times. So I'd like just to share a few things that are useful to myself. Okay. First of all, I have had the opportunities in this. I'm quite young still, but I traveled a lot in all these years. And I come from Brazil, from my father family, they are Jewish, my mother family, they are Christian. And I have had the opportunity until I was 12 to had a very good life in Brazil. Then after that I could travel more. I went to live in India for 12 years, where I went to study Buddhist philosophy. And during that period, I was for about 2 months a year together with my teacher. He was traveling, going to give lectures and teachings in different countries. So around 2 months a year I would travel with him also. And in all this time, and I've been now living in Europe in Italy for about 12 years. In all this time, what I have seen is that I was meeting people from all different kinds of backgrounds. Very rich people, very poor people, people with different cultures, different levels of education, people in all different situations, very healthy, very sick, people following religion, not following religion, people with a very high level of education, people with not much education, all types of people. And on all these occasions, something becomes very, very clear. First of all, is that there is not much difference between us and others. Normally when we see another person, because the person is in a different condition than the one in which we are, we think there is a lot of difference. Maybe it's a social condition, maybe it's a physical condition, maybe it's a cultural difference. Very often we see there is difference because we see something different and we think, oh, we are not similar. But actually we are much more similar than we expect. That's my own experience. And from that, what makes us really so similar is the fact that we want the same thing. It doesn't matter who we are. What we want is we want to be happy and we don't want to suffer. That's the main thing. That's what we want most of all. So, and the next thing is that every one of us, independently of who we are, we do everything we do thinking it is the best for our own happiness. Very often we do that guided by our own ignorance, but still we do thinking it is the best. So based on this, what I believe is that it's not a matter of one religion or another religion or this or that. The matter is, what do we do to have a better life? What do we do for ourselves so that we are more happy and we suffer less? And how can we interact with others to help others also to suffer less and to be more happy? This for me is the most important part. So based on this, if we look, normally when we talk about suffering, we have two different types of suffering mainly, which is physical suffering and mental suffering. So being here, the context in a hospital, I think very often people experience and we see a lot of physical suffering also. But from this perspective, I think we have developed very well. If we look to our modern medicine and so on, we take care of pain in quite an excellent way. We take care of the physical aspect of the suffering quite well. So, and I am not the right person to talk about that. I don't have enough knowledge for that. I'm not the right person to talk about that. I think there will be many other people much more prepared to talk about how to deal with the physical pain and so on. But normally, there, as we said before, two main types of suffering. We have physical suffering and we have mental suffering. And the mental suffering, such as our anxieties, our fears, our expectations that were not fulfilled, then we have attachments that we need to separate from things and people and situations that we are attached to. Then we have whole objectives that cannot be fulfilled. Then at the same time, then there is hatred accumulated. And then we have all different types of inner states of mind, which brings us suffering also. And if we go around and if we look to most people and we ask which suffering you have more, mental suffering or physical suffering? In most cases, what would we find? Mental suffering, I suppose. Okay. I have seen also one time also talking to my mom. She's a psychologist working with terminally ill patients in Brazil. And one interesting thing was that, you know, what I saw one time that I was talking to her is when people come and they are in a very difficult state. So in the end of their lives, mostly very often with a very difficult disease, where there is not much hope anymore physically. And what we normally would think, many of you maybe have more experience than me, but normally when we would think, we'd say, okay, what's the main issue that a person that is in this state will bring to a psychologist. And you may think, oh, maybe it's how to deal with the sickness, maybe it's how to prepare for one's own death, and so on. But actually not. Most of the times the issues is my husband, my wife, my parents, my children, the normal issues that anyone else would bring. Which means that very often, okay, the physical pain has been taken care, but there are other issues there also that everyone has, independently if we are sick or not. Issues which are related to the jealousy, which are related to traumas of the past, which are related to the pain, and especially when we see, how to say, when we live in a more superficial way. Some things we don't look much at them because we get busy with superficial things. So for example, if we have a conflict with another person, and in the meantime we are busy with our work, we are busy out looking for pleasures, this and that, whatever, sometimes we try to deal that to eliminate that conflict. Sometimes it comes about and we feel sad and upset, but then very often we just go out to do something else and to make our mind busy and somehow not really to escape, but not to deal with that conflict that is lying there. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes sickness put us in a position in which we don't have anymore all that superficial things to fill up. And also because it brings us to the fact that is nothing new for anyone, but it brings us to the fact of our own mortality. So this brings us to the necessity to deal with things that are inside of us. And I think this is something very important that we need to address and to take care. But I just remember now a story it's a true story, of one, it was a friend of my friend in the monastery. So my friend was Geshe Lhasa Ninja, so he had a friend living in the north of India. I was living in the south, near Dharamsala, and he was a monk making meditation in the mountains. He had a small hut, and he was like there for many, many years, just making his own meditation practice in the mountains. So his friends went to see him, like every 6 months or something like that. He was not receiving a lot of visits. And when they went there the last times, they would see him his health was very bad. He was coughing a lot. He was really not okay. So they urged him and they forced him almost to go down to the city, to Delhi, to make exams in the hospital. So he went down to the hospital, finally, which I think the trauma itself of going out of the little cave in the mountain to the chaotic New Delhi was already big enough. But when he got down in the hospital, he would stay there for a few days. He did all the exams which were requested. But the doctor never looked him in the eyes and was avoiding talking to him. And he was getting tired of being there in the hospital and waiting and waiting and waiting and not understanding what was happening. So one day, he caught the doctor walking in the corridor, and he ran and he jumped, he kneeled himself and he held the legs of the doctor. And he said, "Now you tell me what I have." The doctor didn't know much what to do, so the doctor looked at him and he said, "You have a cancer." And he said, "What does that mean?" I said, "That you are going to die and there is nothing else I can do." And then he asked, "So the fact that I have a cancer means that I am going to die?" The doctor said, "Yes." Then he started laughing and laughing. He couldn't stop laughing. And he went back and said, "Doctor, look, if the fact that I have a cancer means I'm going to die, I always had a cancer since I was born, because since I was born I need to die." Because this is the simple common fact of every one of us. From the moment we are born, what is the only certainty we have? Sooner or later, we are going to die. And in Buddhism, this is an issue that is very commonly taught, to be aware of our own mortality. It's not to have fear of death, It's the other way around. It's to be aware of our mortality and understand that life is impermanent. It's part of life. And understand that in life, what matters is not how long we live. It's the quality of our life. That's the most important thing. I see often someone pass away, then someone comes and asks, oh, how long did he live? How old he was? How old she was? And I look and I say, what does it matter? Why don't we ask, what did he do in his life? How good was his or her life? How meaningful it was? Also because when we talk about time, what matters in time, it's not the quantity, but it's the quality. Even in our daily life, if we go for holiday with a friend, someone that we like, we have some time for holiday. What is more important, the quality or the quantity? It's the quality. Sometimes we can stay one day with a person with such a strong connection that is worth for a long time. Other times we can stay 2 weeks with a person, okay, nice, but not really any connection, no any special feeling. Then, okay, after when it finishes, we even forget easily. So in life, generally speaking, what is most important when we talk about the quantity of life or of time, because life is made out of time, is much more important the quality than the quantity. So when we judge our life, or if we need to judge the life of someone, which is very difficult to do, we don't need to judge about time, we need to judge about quality. What have I done? How have I lived? This is more important than how long have I lived. And the next part, what is very important for me personally, is not what I do in this life, not what I have done, but it's much more important the experiences I have had, the people I have met, the places I have been, in which way all of this have shaped myself. Who am I today compared to whom I was yesterday, last year, and so on? In other words, it's not so important in life what we do, it's more important what we become. And what I become, for me, it is if I am more patient, if I have more love, if I am more kind, if I am more humble, if I am more generous, if I have more wisdom. That's what really matters. Also because, when we see life is short for every one of us. I want to bring this to us because I see that sometimes we have the tendency to make distinction between a healthy and a sick person. That's understandable, sure. But truly, there is no difference between a healthy and a sick person relating to one's own certainty of death. It's not something, because now I got sick, so now I'm going to die. It's something that all of us, and truly speaking, we have no idea who is going to die first. The one that is healthy or the one that is sick. In the sense that life is so complex and so many things can happen, we never know. I even got a very complex situation one time, which was 2 friends, a mother and a daughter. And the mother got very sick. She was very, very sick, and she was sure that she was going to die soon. So what she did was that she passed all her material things she had, she gave to her daughter while she was still alive. But then what happened is that she got cured of the sicknesses, and in the meantime the daughter died. And then she couldn't have any of her things back again. It was a very complicated situation. This is just to give one example that we never know what happens. Even in the situation that everything looks very clear and very precise, or which will go in this way, truly we don't know. But which is the direction that this needs to take us? In Buddhism it says that a Buddhist practitioner should think about death at least once a day. Our own death, not someone else. Okay? And I try to do that by making 4 questions to myself, which are, first question, am I going to die or not? It looks a stupid question, but it's very important, because the answer shouldn't come from the head. We should feel it until we answer yes. Am I sure? Yeah, I'm sure. Okay. If I'm gonna die, comes the next question. When? Okay, I'm now 36. I have a good health. I don't do anything really dangerous. Okay. I have a healthy lifestyle. I don't think there is anyone that wants to harm me in the point of taking away my life. So, nothing is lacking, nothing is missing. Is it too much to ask to live at least another maybe 40 years? Okay, my grandfather now is 93 and healthy. Okay, at least until 60. Is it too much? I would not say so. But can anyone assure me that I'm going to live until 60? Actually not. So the truth is that in the same way that we have the certainty of our own mortality, of our own death, there is a certainty of the uncertainty of the moment of our own death. We have no idea when we're going to die. It's a fact. But when we come and we make out to ourselves the question, when am I going to die? And we answer, I don't know. We need to analyze this I don't know. Does it comprehend today? Or is I don't know after some time? Is it I don't know, but within this, but first there is a certainty, okay, there is a week, a year, 10 years, whatever period which I know I'm not going to die, and then maybe after that, who knows, maybe it could happen. It's like sometimes when I talk to people and people say, if I die, then I look and say, which other possibility you have? It's a fact. It's not a problem. It's a fact. It's part of our life. It's something so natural. And I don't know exactly why, in our societies, it has become a taboo. Something that we cannot talk. Something that is difficult. Sure, I have had many people around my life that I really loved so much and they passed away. Some in a nice way, some in a very difficult way. But for me, sincerely speaking, the problem is not the death itself. The problem is to live one's own life in a way that is not meaningful. And this brings us to the next questions, which is, okay, as I don't know when I'm going to die, if I die today, who am I in front of my own death? What do I leave to the world around me? Which means what image I leave to the other people, what memories I leave to other people, what is the even material things, what I am leaving for them. For example, if I write a nice book or a nice poem, and many years after someone read that poem and receive a benefit from that, I am part of that also. So in one way or another, we continue to live, which means we continue to interact with people in the world through the things that we do and through the things that we leave for them. In Buddhism it says that even many, many years after our own death, the things that we have done and we left when we die, if they interact with other people and generate positive experience, we are part of that and we receive the benefit also. It doesn't matter where we are. So, if I die today, who am I in front of my own death? What do I bring with me and what do I give to others? Because this body, I cannot take. Okay, I'm presuming the fact that, which I believe quite strongly, that death is the moment that the body cannot sustain anymore this life, And then there is where what we call the very subtle mind, or we can call the soul, we can call it different names, a part of ourselves we separate from the body. And then what happens after? Okay, this is a long discussion. But the fact is that I believe there is a continuity after that. It's my own personal belief. So the question which comes is, what do I take with myself? But the main point comes to the fourth question, which is, okay, so what am I doing in my life today, yesterday, to cultivate what I leave for others and what I take with me? And in the moment that we start living our lives with the awareness of our own mortality, what it brings is not the fear of death, but the preciousness of every moment that we have. And I think this is something very important that we can learn. And I believe that us as human beings, we can only become truly mature as a human being once we have a non-conceptual experience of our own mortality. It can come in many different ways. But when we really understand, not conceptually, that yes, at some point, this, as I know, is going to finish. And I don't know when. What does that mean? I need to live in the best way as I can what I have right now. One of the things which is important is that in front of our own fragility, in front of our own mortality, what it brings to us is a change of priorities. It changes completely the priorities that we have in life. And it brings us back to more deep priorities, which are the priorities of the relationships we have. Okay? I remember one time, there was an old lady in Brazil, and she was a healer and a spiritual guide, and I knew her since I was a very small kid. My parents used to go to see her, and somehow I knew this lady, very good lady, very loving lady. And one time I was there with her, one of the last times I saw her, and she already passed away. And at that time, 2 of her daughters were together. She had 6 children, and the daughters were already over 60. So they were together, and then the daughter said, "Oh, you know, you see our mother, she's so nice and kind and sweet. But with us, she was never been so much like this. She has always been also quite hard on us." Then she told, you know what she used to say to us, and up to today? Whenever between us, brothers and sisters, whenever we would fight, she would come to us and say, "Stop fighting, because you never know when you are going to die. And there is nothing worse than dying with a brother that you were fought and you had a bad relation with him. So you have something to discuss, you discuss, but you should separate hugging and being with a good connection to each other, because you never know what can happen." And she used to say this with so much truth and belief that they followed it. And they said, okay, we had many times in our life we had discussions and things, but we always followed what our mother taught us. And we never got separated, we never left each other without looking at each other's eyes and feeling good with each other. I think this is a big lesson. Because this is one of the aspects that our mortality brings to us, our fragility. And the other thing that brings to us is the fact of, okay, what really matters, you know? Because, for example, now I am young. Let's say I may have a long life, like I wish for everyone, long and healthy. But how can I be sure that the body is going to be there healthily to support me? Let's say I reach 90. I cannot be sure of that. How can I be sure that the material things which I accumulate will still be there? I cannot be sure of that. How can I be sure of the relationships that I create, that they will be there in the same way? I cannot be sure of that. But one thing I can be sure, the more patience I develop, the more it will help me, independently if I will be healthy or sick. The more love, kindness, inner stability, satisfaction, joy, the more it will help me, independently of where I am, which situation I find myself within. So, what I believe is that in the moment that we are in a situation which is not easy, in which, because of our own body, we cannot work as we used to do, our relations become difficult, we have pain, we have the certainty more clear of our own mortality and fragility of ourselves. One of the most important things that I believe we need to take from that is the need to take care of our own emotional state and our own mind. But this is not something that we need to wait the day that we may get sick to do. Sure, when we are sick is something that I believe is very, very important. Also because, I don't know if you were doctors, but from my understanding, and as I said before in the beginning, I'm not the right person to talk about the physical aspect of the body and health and so on, but I'm very sure that there is a very strong connection between the mind and the body. I have no doubt about that. The body influences the mind influences the body. And on this way, it becomes so important for us to take care of our own mind. So there are some small tricks, it's not the right word, some small tools, which I believe that can help us in this whole situation, okay? In Tibetan tradition, there is one thing which is called Gangchen, which means to transform adverse circumstances into the path. Which means in our lives there are many moments which are difficult. There are many moments which things do not go in the way how we expect. We have material difficulties, relationship difficulties, physical difficulties, and so on. So there are different ways how we can deal with these situations, and there are some tools that can help us really to transform them and to deal in a better way. Even sometimes to find meaning within it. Okay? So first thing is the fact that when there is a sickness, and not necessarily a sickness, whenever there is pain, whenever there is suffering, which can be physical or mental, I believe that the reason why we have pain and suffering is because something is not in the right place. Something is out of balance in our life, out of harmony. It can be on our relationships, it can be, if in our relationship there is conflict, it means there is something which is not okay there. If in our own body there is pain, it means something is not correct. Because pain, what is pain actually saying to us? Something is not okay. So, now I've seen some documentaries that were showing these kids that had this sickness, I don't remember the name of the sickness now, that they never feel pain since birth. And it's quite terrible actually. Because you see these kids, they are like 8 years old, they are completely broken. Because it's like they put their hand on the fire and they see the smoke coming out and they think it's funny. There is no pain. So pain somehow protects us. And pain is teaching us to say, look, something is wrong. So if I have a headache, if I have whatever type of pain, what is it telling me? Something is not right. Okay. One thing which I believe is very important, first of all, is that we need to take the pain, physical, mental, emotional, as a sign, as an alarm that is ringing. That sure, we need to turn off the alarm, but we need to go back and understand why the alarm is ringing. And most of all, we need to take away the cause instead of only dealing with the symptom. And very often in our life, what we want is to take away the symptom. Because also very often we don't know really what is the cause. Very often the cause is related to our lifestyle, to traumas that we have and other things, and maybe we don't want to deal with them, we don't know how to deal with them, but the fact is that until the cause is not really taken care, even though we take care of the symptom, it's going to come back again and again, from time to time. So it's so important for us to deal with the symptom, but at the same time, we need to try to go to look for the cause. For example, in relation to cancer, I have one friend. She's a doctor making research on how to prevent cancer. She was the head of the Department of Cancer Research in Italy, now she lives in Canada. And talking to her, she was telling that, putting together all the research, if we ask what is the cause of cancer, she would say that's the modern lifestyle. It's so many things put together, but it's basically most of all the modern lifestyle that we have. The way how we eat, the pollution in the cities that we live, this mental and stress in which we live, and many other things put together. All these things put together are the main factors that actually create this disease, which, if we truly look, we are in a time where there is an epidemic of cancer. Or not? How many people, is there anyone here that have never known or doesn't know anyone that between one's own relationship of friends and family that have not had cancer? That we don't know anyone? I've made this question with hundreds of people. Normally one or two raise their hand. So what is this showing us? That yes, we need to deal with the pain, we need to deal with the sickness, but we need to deal with the cause. And the cause, I believe, is related mainly to the lifestyle that we have. We have so many strong changes in our lifestyle in the past 100 years as human beings that we think they are wonderful. The speed of traveling, the use of light, the way we eat, the change of timing, the way how we sleep. So many things have changed so drastically, actually. And I think we need to go back and look really about our own lifestyle. But this is just one part, which I just wanted to add. But the main thing is that it's important for us to go to look to the cause and not to remain only in the symptom. But now, let's go to these few tools that we can have that can help us to transform and to deal better with these difficult situations that we have. Okay. First of all, and difficult, I don't say it's easy, but there is one inner attitude that makes a big difference, which we could call it in many different ways. But the name that I use for myself is acceptance. Okay. What do I mean by acceptance? Acceptance doesn't mean to, how would you say it in English? In Italian we say sottomettersi. It's not like just to undergo something and say, okay, there's nothing I can do, so somehow I accept. And this is not acceptance. Okay? It's like if there is something very difficult and we simply say, okay, that's how it is, and I'm not going to fight back. That's not acceptance. Acceptance, it means not to connect with the problem, but to put, or better, not to put energy in the problem, but to put energy in the solution. It's like if I am in the middle of the road and a car is coming to hit me. What it means to accept the fact that the car is coming to hit me. It's not to remain in the middle of the road. Instead of looking and saying, why is the car coming? The car should not have come in this direction. I didn't do anything for the car to come in this direction. Okay, let's try to see what's the model of the car and what's the color of the car and what will I do the day that the car hit me. If the car hit me, which hospital I go, what I do, what will happen, what will not happen. That's not what I should do, right? What it means to accept, the car is coming to hit me. That's a fact. Now what I do. Which is the easiest direction through which I should run or jump away? That's to accept it. The old example that is given in the Buddhist text is like, if we receive an arrow, if we are shot by an arrow, we don't need to start looking where did the arrow come from, why did anyone shoot me, oh, I should not have been shot, I didn't do anything to receive this arrow. I don't think why and who and so on and so on and so on. And it's useless to analyze what's the material of which the arrow is made, and how this and that, and how will be my future, when will this happen. What we need to do? Try to take away the arrow, try to find a doctor or something. We need to take care of the fact that we were shot by an arrow. That's all. This is to accept it. So to accept means to put energy in the solution instead of remaining blocked in the conflict, in the problem. It's not easy. Also because we have a habit in our life, you know. For me, it's very clear. The way how we deal when we are sick is the way how we deal when we are healthy. We die the same way how we live. So if normally I'm always complaining, when I get sick, I'm going to complain. And most probably I will die complaining. If normally I'm grateful, I'm going to be grateful even in my sickness. But sometimes, the difficult moments have the power to force us to change ourselves. Because one thing which for me is very clear is that myself, I have no doubt about it, but I think many of us, we are very lazy by nature. We don't want to change our way of being so easily, you know. If we are in our comfort zone, we try to remain there. But when we are forced out of our comfort zone, maybe by a family situation, maybe by a material situation, or often by sickness, then we must do something to change in order to try to find comfort again. And one of the things that really help is to understand that we live in a very complex reality, in which, truly speaking, I have no idea why things happen the way they happen. Because very often we try to understand the reason of why things happen. So I get something and I try to ask, but why did it happen to me? Why am I in this situation? What did I do? Who's to blame? What I believe, there is no one to blame. There are too many things to blame if we need to find something to blame. The causes are way too many. The reason why things happen, it's out of such a complex interdependence of so many things put together. Even if we just ask ourselves, why are we here today? How many things have happened for us to be here today? Each one of us. If we need to tell the story of the day of today, it's almost endless. So imagine if we think, why did I get sick? That's a very complex thing to truly to understand from my point of view. Okay, oh, maybe I got this and I ate something that I was not supposed to eat, or I went to a place where I got a virus or whatever, okay? But if we think why I was there, why this happened, it's so complex, the whole thing together. Okay? So, one thing which really helps me is the fact of looking at the present and saying, okay, things are the way how they are supposed to be. Are they how I expected them to be? No. Are things the way how I would like them to be? Some yes, others no. But they are just as they are supposed to be, in the sense that causes and conditions were created in the complex interaction of our lives, brought things to be just as they are. And what if something would have been different? What if at that time I didn't do what I do? What if I didn't go to that place? What if I went to that other place? What if I said this? What if I went to that doctor? What if this and that? What if? I have no idea. One of the things that really helps me is taking away the word if from my vocabulary. I understood that and I made this change. One day in Brazil, I was with my sister and I needed to go to make a vaccine of yellow fever. As Brazilians, we need to make vaccine of yellow fever to travel to some places and so on. And my sister asked me, we were in São Paulo, this big city, crowded city. And my sister asked me, shall we go by car or by subway? I said, okay, we go by car. Okay. Without traffic, it would take no more than 10 minutes. It took like almost an hour. So we got there. Too much traffic. To park, another 40 minutes to find a place to park. Then to go to the place of the vaccine was very easy and quick. Maybe 10 minutes, most of all, done. Then to go back home, another 45 minutes, whatever. So in the way back, my sister looked at me and said, oh, you see, if we would have gone by subway, we would have already been home and we could be watching a movie. Instead, we were here in the middle of the traffic. And it just came to my mind and I told her, it's true. But what if we had gone by subway and you had fell down and broke your arm? Now we would be in the hospital. What if we had gone by subway and someone had stolen my bag? Now we would be at the police station. After if, anything can come. So what we have is what is here now. That's what we know, which is the present. Because also if we look within our sufferings, our mental suffering, we suffer more about the past and the future, or we suffer more for the present? Very often, past and future. So we pass more time re-suffering the past and pre-suffering the future than actually dealing with the suffering of the present. So one thing to help on that is the fact of not saying the word if, really take out of the vocabulary. If this may be related to the past. What I know is what happened. And I have no idea if it was different, what would have happened. Sure, it would be different. How different, I don't know. So with this, it helps us to bring us to the acceptance of the present, in which we say, okay, this is the condition in which I am. My family, my friends, my body, material thing, whatever. This is the condition in which I am. Yes, this is where I am. Okay, so from here, where can I go? From here, what can I do? Which is the best way, how can I deal with this? This is one first thing that really, if we're able to bring this philosophy to our lives, it makes a big change. So acceptance for me is one of the keys of happiness. Because most of the times we suffer not for what is happening, but we suffer a lot because things are not in the way we thought they should have been. Very often we suffer because we make expectations for the future, then the future becomes present, it's not in the way how we thought it should be, then we try to find someone to blame for it, or ourselves or someone else, and then we go into conflict with that, and then it becomes past, and then we are upset by how things were in the past, and they should not have been like that. When things just go in the way how they are. So to have this acceptance, I think it's something which finally we relax, you know. And then we can really deal with what we have. Okay, this is what I have. Let's deal with it in the best way as we can. Like 2 months ago, more or less, I was in Beijing with my mother. My mother got a cancer in the thyroid, which from all the possibilities is one of the easiest ones. And we were there, and for many different reasons. We were traveling, we went to Tibet together, and she knew just before, and the doctor said to her, look, you need to come back in between 45 days, you need to make surgery because she did a biopsy. And it came out, was a bad cancer and so on. So we were there in Beijing. And then a friend of ours in Beijing, a good friend, told, oh look, I have a very good doctor here if you like to see this doctor and so on. So okay. My mom said yes, why not? She went to a doctor, she really liked very much the approach of the doctor and so on. Making a long story short, she chose to do the surgery in Beijing. She had the best hospital in Brazil, but she chose to do there. And so I stayed with her for around a month there. And what was really interesting was that we had the most wonderful time in our lives. Not because of the cancer, but because we enjoyed the time that we were together. Which normally never happens because she's completely busy with so many things. I'm completely busy with many other things. And for the first time in our lives, after I was a small kid, at least after I was 12, we had 1 month together with no any specific schedule other than going to the hospital and doing the exams and so on. And the friends that were helping, they were a little bit shocked because they said, I don't see you sad, I don't see you bad, you look very happy. And he said, yes, there are beautiful things to enjoy at the same time. Sure, my mom was not happy to do the surgery. She was not happy at all the idea to take away her thyroid. And she was not happy with all this process, and it's not the most pleasurable things. Here hospitals are much more nice than what they are in Beijing. Very nice hospital there, but still, it's not the place that where we like to pass the afternoon. But still, the fact was, here we are, we have beautiful moments together. They are beautiful things. So one thing which I believe is very important that this acceptance also teaches us is that it's not because there is something bad that everything needs to be bad. It's not because there is something difficult, it's not because there is something that has a bitter taste that everything must have the same taste. There's a saying in Brazil which we say, uma coisa, outra coisa, outra coisa. One thing is one thing, another thing is another thing. Which is the fact, okay, yes, there is this difficulty, yes, there is the pain, yes, there is this, we need to deal with it, we need to take care of it. But in the meantime, there are so many other good things also. And we should never forget to connect with the good things that we have. This is something that makes a big difference also. Because otherwise we may get trapped, you know. Because when there is a problem, when there is a difficulty, when there is a suffering, I believe sometimes we get trapped into it, like if it becomes a bubble and we enter into that bubble and it becomes our world. Then we see only everything through that perspective. We are not able to get out of it. Instead, yes, it is there. Let's deal with it in the best way as we can. But in the meantime, there are other things going on. There is the relationship with the people that I have. And in the moment that I see my own fragility, I see how fragile I am based on my own sickness and so on, this opens myself to actually overcome conflicts that I have had, to make the relationships better also very often. This is something which is good, that can come out. But to change the behaviors which I have, which say, okay, how can I live my life better? Here, right now. Okay, I have too much hatred. This is not good for me. I don't need that for myself. And I cannot wait one day when something will happen for me to change my behavior. Because life is short. Even if we have a long life, life is short. So I need to do now. Oh, I am a very proud person, and I say that these are things that only we know. Yes, this pride is really not so good. When am I going to start to be more humble? Put myself in that way. Today. Because tomorrow I don't know what will happen, how it will be. I see that one of the things that harms us a lot is the inability to connect to other people, to open our heart. You know, when we have a very closed heart, the more our heart is closed, only looking towards our own selves, the more we suffer, the more difficult life becomes. Instead, when we truly open ourselves to others, and when we are in a difficult situation, somehow it's more easy for us to connect with others that are in a difficult situation also. When we suffer more, we become more sensible for suffering somehow. So in this way, to open ourselves also, which is one of the most beautiful things that we can do, is actually truly to open our hearts towards other people. I think this is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to ourselves. From my personal experience, there are many wonderful things in life that can give us a lot of joy and a lot of well-being. But when we truly open ourselves to others, when we look at others, being able to see the other person, and we all really love the other person, in the sense that your happiness is important for me. I don't know really who you are necessarily, but your happiness is important for me. And I wish you truly to be happy. This gives a big change in ourselves. This made me now remember one girl which I went to see a few weeks ago. I was in São Paulo, Brazil. And they invited me to give a talk in a hospital, the biggest hospital of São Paulo. There were quite many people there with the doctors and so on. But the most special moment for me, sincerely, was not talking to these 500 people there. Was actually I went to see a few patients. And there was one girl especially. She's 21. And she had, you say in English, leukemia. And she did the transplant of bone marrow transplant, but it didn't go well. So there she was, 21. Her body looked like the body of an old lady. And very, very weak. One day yes, one day not, she's almost dying. For whatever reason, the body's reacting in very strange ways and so on. Not so much hope to do another transplant, even though the mother is willing to do it and so on. But when I went into the room and started talking to this girl, she transmitted so much joy to everyone around. And it was so beautiful to see the love that she had and the respect and gratitude that she had to everyone that was around. So all the nurses and the doctors that took me there, they were all so touched by this girl. And they were like amazing, happy to be there. They were all touched because even though she is in the circumstance that she is, still she was grateful and treated each and every one with so much respect, with so much love. And you could see in her face, I could see in her face so much joy. Joy from where? From the love she has for others. Sure, she was not happy when I saw her of the physical condition in which she is. Sure, it is difficult. I believe very difficult. But still, the joy that was coming, where it was coming from my own point of view. From the love. Because when we love someone else, how do we feel? Good or bad? We feel good. Even if we don't know that person. You know? So, very selfishly speaking, because truly, do we care about our own happiness? I would say yes. Okay? So very selfishly speaking, the best thing is to be altruistic. The best thing is to truly open our hearts to others. And when we are able, even in a very fragile moment of our own sickness, actually, the sickness sometimes take away some blockages, some barriers there is between us and others. The way how other people relate to us when we are sick and so on. So if in this moment we are able actually to open our heart and to love the other, even in our own fragile, difficult situation, this actually opens the heart of the other person also. And we can heal many other things through that. If in a fragile situation of our own sickness, we are able to open our heart and to say sorry to the people that we hurted, to be able to accept the other people that maybe harmed us in the past and they say sorry to us, or we're able even to love them and to care for them, it is a very powerful thing. And it's much more powerful than when we are in a normal moment of our life, in our own healthy situation. But sure, when we are healthy, it's the moment where we need to take care of our health, mental, physical, emotional. But one of the things that if we can train ourselves in, and that is what really gives us joy in every moment, and what can really help us, is to love others, is to truly open our heart. And one important thing when we talk about loving others is the fact that if I love someone, I don't need necessarily to agree with that person. It's not because I love you that I agree with everything you do. It's not because I love you that I will go in the same direction. I may really not agree with what you did. I may really not agree with the way you are, but I still love you. One thing is not taking away the other. I say this because often we have this attitude to say, how can I love that person? Look what he did to me. How can I love that person? Look the way how he behaves. And this blocks us, and this keeps our heart closed. And this is very painful. Because as we said before, when we are completely, distracted by things in our daily lives, even if our heart is closed somewhere, sometimes we connect to it and we feel the pain of it. In many other moments we are just busy with many other things. But when we have less opportunities of doing superficial things and disconnecting from ourselves, and sickness often brings this, then it becomes even more important truly to open our heart, somehow to relax inside and to love others. Who we mean by others? Others we mean our family, our friends, the people we relate with, the people that are around us, the doctors, the nurses, the other patients, everyone around us. That's the people that we really need to open ourselves to. And one other aspect which is important with that is that when we talk about love, it's not only loving others, but we also first of all need to love ourselves. And one of the things that help in that is that in the moment that we have pain, and I'm talking about mental, emotional pain, if we try to block that pain, it's not going to work. I think we have all tried to do that in our lives. There is something that there is some sadness, there is some hatred, there is something that there is some mental, emotional suffering. And what we do, we try to block it. We try to put it down or hide it somehow from ourselves. What it happens, the more I hide it, the stronger it becomes until one day it comes completely out. Okay? It's like one time, there was one friend of ours, and she was talking to my teacher, my master, Lama Gangchen, and then she had a big problem on her liver. And so she was there talking to Lama Gangchen about it. She had just been to the hospital and so on. And then he asked to her, I was translating, and he asked, do you get angry often? And I knew her, I still know her very well, and she didn't look at all as an angry person. And then she said, actually, yes. There is a lot, it has been now 25 years that I get very angry towards one specific person, which in that case was her husband. but I never manifest that anger. And whenever I get angry, I just go, I smoke something. I try to forget about that anger, but actually this is still there. So there it is, 25 years of this anger accumulated. Sooner or later, it manifests itself. In a way or in another. Or in a reaction which is uncommon to the person, overreaction, or in form of a sickness often. So, what happens is that when we have some sort of emotional pain, difficulty, to hide it is not working. Okay? To try to push it away, it's also not working. So what I believe that we need to do, which is what I try to do with myself, is whenever there is something that is difficult, we need somehow to embrace ourselves. But not without diving into the suffering. I take care of myself, I embrace myself and say, okay, yes, there is this situation, yes, I'm feeling that, but bring the mind to the present, embrace oneself in the present, without worrying so much about the future, because really the future is uncertain and we truly don't know how things are going to be. And my own perspective is that when there is uncertainty, then I relax. Because I don't know. And it's useless to stay thinking about thousands of possibilities or one possibility when the one possibility is 1 in 1,000. So I will just relax in the present moment that I have, and I will do the best to go in the best way as I can. So I embrace myself, drinking myself to the present and say, yes, this pain is there. We're talking about emotional pain. But one thing which is interesting is that this emotional pain, which can come from sadness, it can come from hatred, it can come from jealousy, from envy, from different types of emotions, actually is a very powerful resource. It's energy. It's like energy in the sense like putting gasoline in the car. It gives strength. Okay? Out of emotional pain, can we do crazy things? Out of anger, out of jealousy, out of envy, out of sadness. It actually is a very strong force in our lives. So what I try to do, and I believe, is that we can take that force and we can redirect it. We don't need to stay within it. So for example, one thing I always try to do is like, when I do this myself, so I share this with others normally. So for example, it comes a person that I love, and this person is in a difficult situation, is sick, or a person passes away. In both cases. First thing, remember the person's good things and develop gratitude towards that person. Say thank you inside. Second thing, generate a positive feeling and emotion directed to that person. What I wish for you. Because our emotions are very powerful, our feelings, our mind is very powerful actually. So what do I wish for you? And the third and most important thing, what I wish is basically making a prayer, is dedicating something for the person, wishing something for the person. And the third and most powerful is, okay, I make a commitment of something practical that I will do, positive, dedicated for that person. So, what is something positive? It's an action that or will bring happiness or will help others to suffer less. So maybe I help to give food for someone that needs food. Maybe I'm going to give company for someone that is without company. Maybe I'm going to do something that helps the environment. Maybe I do something that I'm helping a person bringing joy to someone else, whatever. Okay? But I commit myself that I will do something that will generate a positive energy dedicated to that person that is sick. Because one of the things that are difficult is that when we are in a stage of suffering and somehow it brings a frustration of not being able to do anything about it. or about something that have already happened, or about something that is happening. And it's true. Very often the tools that we have do not allow us to change the situation from what it is. One question that one doctor made to me in this last meeting in this hospital in Brazil was, how do we deal with compassion? Because compassion will sometimes bring frustration. This was the question. Because we see so many people with so much suffering, and after some time, yes, we want them to be well, and we want them to be better, and we don't want them to suffer, and we connect with our heart to them, but sometimes this brings to ourselves our own frustrations because we cannot do everything. One very important thing is that both love and compassion have limits. And we must respect the limits of love, and we must respect the limits of compassion. Which are these limits? It doesn't matter how much I love you, I cannot make you happy. That's a limitation that I have. Can we make anyone happy? Did we ever try to make someone happy? I think so. Did it work? Not really. We can interact with someone, and our interaction can help the person to be more happy. This is true. But we cannot make the other happy. The other person can make himself happy. And my interaction can help for that. But no one can make someone else happy. And it doesn't matter how much compassion I have of you, I cannot take away your suffering. I can interact in the best way as I can to help you to suffer less. But I cannot do that by myself. So, in this way, in the moments that we are together with other people that are in these difficult situations, let's just open our heart and give the best that we can give. And that's already a lot. And often we find ourselves in situations that we cannot do much truly to change the way how things are. But we can do many other things around. Like this lady which I sat in the hospital. She was there, and one of the persons that was helping her the most actually was one lady that her job in the hospital was actually making makeup for the patients. I think maybe here you have also the same function, which is because patients within the whole process of cancer, in her case it was her whole skin was very bad and so on. So to help them with their own image, she goes there, make their hair and help to make a nice makeup and so on. But this lady, interestingly, she has a very, very important function there, which is not to paint the face of the patients. It's to interact with them with something else that is not their sickness. And to give love to them. Very beautiful lady, internally. Beautiful person. And really interacting and making jokes and drinking and hugging and giving love and interacting in another way. This is something that anyone can do, as long as we open a bit our heart. And this means a lot. So yes, there are moments in which we cannot change the actual fact of how some things are. But we can do many other things. And I think this is something that makes a big difference also. So, we develop gratitude, we dedicate something good, we generate a positive feeling, positive thought, and then we make a commitment to do something dedicated for the person. So this is also in relation to ourselves, whatever pain we have. We take that sadness, we take that pain, and we acknowledge it, we embrace it, but then we direct it. We use it as a force to do something, instead of becoming stuck into it. I don't know, is it clear as a concept? Okay, and this is something very powerful. And again, for us to be able to do that, we must have acceptance. And we must have love towards ourselves. Because if we don't have acceptance, we would say, yes, I could do something, but it's not what I wanted. And we get blocked in the past. But not in the past that happened very often. We get blocked in the idea that we had of how things should have been. And because of that, we are not able to move forward. So, one of the things which are very important is that relax where things are, even though they are difficult, yes. And I asked myself a few days ago, this is a thought that came a few days ago, and I was thinking, but when is actually life really easy? Is childhood easy? Not really. The childhood of some people are more easy, of others are less easy. But generally speaking, it's not an easy moment, right? We're growing up, trying to understand better who we are, learning how to relate to other people. It's not an easy process. Okay. Teenage, is it easy? Worse. So it's not easy also. Okay, entering into adulthood and choosing a profession, relationships, building up a family, earning our money, entering, is it easy? No. Living the life of adulthood in which we need to work and deal with the problems of life and the relationships and all the rest of the things that comes along with it. Is it easy? So easy. For some people more, for some people less, but there is all the problems related to it. Okay, retirement. Is it easy? For some people more, for some people less, but generally speaking also not really. Dying is also not easy, and being born by the chance is also not easy. So life, generally speaking, it's beautiful, but it's not easy. There are always some difficulties here or some difficulties there. There's a very basic law, a very basic fact. Whenever one problem ends, at least one other problem starts. There is one time a friend that used to tell me always, okay, rejoice how things are because they could always get worse. In the sense that here we are and we have no idea how things can become. We have no idea how things can go. But one thing we are sure, there is always some problem going on. There is always something that is not in the way how we expected it to be. So when I understood that problems exist and will always exist, I finally relaxed. I said, okay, now is this problem, let's deal with it. But the focus of my life cannot be just to solve problems and try to make my life perfect. Because very often we do have this expectation that when this will be like this and that will be like that, then everything will be fine. But truly speaking, for most of us, and I believe this is truly for most of us, we have everything in our life to have a perfect life. Our life somehow is already perfect by itself. And the main point is not changing the world, it's changing the way how we relate to the world. And one of the things that I believe that when we are forced out of our zone of comfort, maybe through sickness, maybe through a difficulty in life, is that when we cannot truly change the world around us, we cannot make this change by ourselves. The world can be our health, the world can be a situation, whatever. Then we remain with one very powerful resource. Actually, the most powerful of all is the way how we relate to it. And this makes the biggest of all differences. Because the most powerful resource that we have is our own mind. And it's the way how we relate to the world more than the world itself. That monk which I told the story before, that the doctor told he had cancer and he started laughing. He stood up after that, he went back to his place of meditation, and he did 3 months of a practice of purification. which was making one exercise, which we call prostrations, which go down with the full body and come up again. He stayed the whole day doing that. And after 3 months, he stopped doing it, and he continued his meditation, and he lived for many, many years more. But sure, at that moment, he had a long process of trying to understand what was happening within himself, and he moved forward with his energy. Remembering that we cannot live our life trying to protect ourselves from our own mortality. Because that's useless. We need to live our lives, living every moment in the best way as we can. If we live our life well, this is the best thing that we can do also for our long life, it's the best thing that we can do to deal with our own sicknesses and so on and so on. So, one thing which I really think is good that a situation of difficulty can bring us, and when we talk about sicknesses, this becomes quite clear for me, is the fact that every moment, every day is precious. Every moment I see you is a very special moment. Because where is life happening? Here, right now, nowhere else. And this is a fact. It's not a philosophical thinking. So, let's live it in that way. Let's take the advantage of every moment that we have. Let's gain the joy of a smile. When we look to each other, the way we say thank you, the way we are grateful to each other. Also because there is two very simple, rules, let's call it that. It's like equations. There are two very simple equations. The more I complain, the more unsatisfied I am. The more unsatisfied I am, the more I suffer. The more I rejoice, the more I am grateful, the more I say thank you. The more satisfied I become, the more satisfied I am, the more I am happy. Because happiness is very much connected to our own satisfaction. Okay? So, just to conclude this part, there are difficult things in life and we need to embrace ourselves within them, but we need to take that energy and redirect it instead of remaining blocked within it. And if we look very often in this world, great things that happened were because people were able to redirect the energy that came from sadness or from a loss and so on. Very many times. If we get blocked within our own pain, then it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger because we're not able to see anything. We will see everything through the filter of that. And if we put away our pain and we make like as if it didn't exist, that's also not going to work. After at some point it will come up even stronger. So it's important for us to accept, means to embrace our own difficulty and say, okay, this is where I am, this is how it is. I will take care of it in the best way as I can. And then once we are able to accept it and we, embrace ourselves, then after that we can take that energy, which is quite strong, and then we put to do something. We direct it to help other people, to write a book, to paint, to do something for the environment. We need to transform that energy into something. This is something which I believe is the very, very important aspect. Okay? And one thing last but not least is that, well, as we said before, when we are on a fragile situation, we become more open to see the fragile situation of others. And this is a great gift. Because to open our hearts to others is a great gift. And as we said before, this is one of the things that really gives us joy. So, I like just to share with you one exercise, which I do, and for me it helps. And the exercise is the following. We go to one person every day. It doesn't matter who it is. It can be a doctor, it can be a nurse, it can be a patient, it can be a friend, it can be someone working in the canteen, in the coffee shop. It doesn't matter where we go, okay? We see a person, every day at least one, possibly someone that we don't really know. If it's someone that we know, try not to do with the same person every day, okay? We go to this person, we look at the person's eyes possibly, and we say to the person, I love you. No need to verbalize. Internally. Okay? Because I see your face is a bit worried already. Okay? Because if we need to verbalize it, then it can create a little bit of trouble, because we have a concept of love which is not really, I would not say correct, but we make a big confusion between love and desire. Okay? But here I mean love as the simple fact, which is, I say to you, internally, I love you, your happiness is important for me, I wish you to be happy. That's what I mean by saying I love you. I don't know necessarily where you come from, I don't know necessarily what you have done, what you have not done, who you are, but you exist and I love you and I wish you to be happy. And I have had few experiences of doing this exercise and then having this exchange in which I start smiling, the person starts smiling back, and the person has no idea why I'm doing it, what is happening, and then there is this warm, beautiful feeling coming in, you know. When we love others, we are the one that receive most of all. And this is something that no one can take out of us. And as I said before, when we are in a fragile situation, for example, of sickness, this becomes even more strong. This exchange can become even stronger. And when we are able to give so much to other people. For example, if I am in a very fragile situation with a sickness and so on, and I'm able to smile and to give love, this love is much more powerful than the love of a person that is in the other normal situation. And we can really help a lot the people around. We can really give a lot to the people that are around. With a simple smile, with a simple feeling of love. So, if we just do this exercise, minimum once a day, try it for a week. If it's good, continue. If you think it's not good, forget about it. Just try. Important thing, don't need to say to anyone, okay? Oh, you know, I did this today. Oh, yes, you know, I'm going to do that. But don't need to say to anyone. Just do it within one's own self. Go there, look to the person. Your happiness is important for me. I wish you to be happy. I love you. And gradually, the only danger of this is that it creates dependence. We want to do more and more. Because somehow it's really pleasurable. So, based on this, what happened is that our mind is based on familiarity. We need to train ourselves. So on everything that we said, I shared today, if there is anything that any one of you think that could be useful in one's own life, we need to train ourselves into it. Understanding is just one step. We train ourselves by bringing it into practice, by doing it, by accepting, by sharing, by loving, by reflecting. And then slowly, slowly it comes to us. Okay? And one thing, as we were saying, sickness very often is a way how to speed up. I met many people that through their own sickness they became a much better person than they were before. Many times. More humble, more loving, more understanding. It's actually a very good antidote against selfishness very often. And against pride and arrogance. So one thing which we can do is that, okay, when we get sick, we need to deal with the sickness. It's part of it. It's in the hand of the doctors, the nurses, the medicines, and so on. But at the same time, the question that we need to make to ourselves is, who am I before the sickness and who I become after the sickness, or in the process. How is it shaping my life? How am I reacting to others? And if we develop more acceptance, if we develop more humility, if we develop more love, then we are going in a good direction. And please remember the energy that comes from grieving, from sadness, from seeing the pains of others and it's being difficult to accept it, from having our own pain and so on. It's a very strong energy that we need to direct it. And the way how we direct it, we can get a lot of energy coming out of that, even to help other people to do many things. Okay? So this is all I would like to say today. And as I said, I'm just here to share something with you. And if there was anything that you think that it may be of any benefit, if there is nothing, okay. Had an hour and a half together, that's all. If there is something that you think that is of any benefit, the only thing I ask, try to bring it to your life. Try to put it into practice. Okay? So I don't know how it's time, but if there is anybody that would like to make any question, is also very welcome. So, just to conclude, one phrase, which for me is very important, because I am lazy, so it helps me to put me in the right direction. One great master, he used to say, Chego samni nishu son machon samni nishu son aga samni nishu son tetarnad lomor kruchuno mise tomba sebenamdani. In English it will be something like that. Thinking of doing it, 20 years passed by. I couldn't do it, 20 years passed by. Oh, why I didn't do it, 20 years passed by. In such way, 60 years passed by, that's the biography of an empty life. Remember that in Tibet at that time people used to live up to their 60s, okay? If we just put not thinking to do it, 20 years pass by, we get to 80. But the fact is that if there is anything that we believe that is important, of changing in our behavior, changing the way how we relate to others, and so on, we must start now, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is too late. We must do it today, without fear of making these changes. Okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.